Let's begin the conversation straight away. In the background report, you heard the group managing director being reported there by our correspondent, and now he's here with us in the studios. GMD NNPC, tell us, we're having this recurrent incidents of pipeline explosions in and around Lagos, and the areas where the explosions occur would appear to be fairly localized. But why is this so?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. It's really not a recent phenomenon. Pipeline attacks on our pipelines first started as acts of vandal for sabotage. Then it gradually transited into a business. And what they do is because the pipeline right of way are very clear, they are clearly marked and they are very visible. So people know that there is a product pipeline running through these communities and along that path. So what they have now turned it into is some form of mini extraction points all along from Atlas Corp all the way to Mosimi. This is what we call the system 2B. But it happens to all our pipelines across the country. And indeed, that is why many of our pipelines are today shut down, because we can no longer operate them, because they will no longer allow us to operate it. And in communities like what we saw in Lagos just recently, 3 days ago, is an indication that these activities take place in the midst of communities. Everybody around that facility, around that community is aware that this is happening, because these insertions cannot be done in isolation, cannot be done unnoticed, and you can also not tap this petroleum product unnoticed by everybody. So what it means is that there's compromise of everybody, the community, the security agencies, the community leaders, our own staff, whenever they know about it, and everybody involved. So it's a tragic situation. But we are doing much about it.
So are you saying there's a conspiracy of silence when it comes to alerting the relevant authorities when these acts are being done?
Absolutely. There is a huge conspiracy of silence by everybody. Those who have responsibility to protect this pipeline keep quiet and keep silent. Those who watch this happen. And indeed, I was shocked when we went to the site of the last incidents that very proximate to that point, there's a big church, there's a big mosque. It means that worshippers of those locations, or the leadership of these two worshiping houses, are aware that this is happening. And it's quite strategic that we can watch this, that nobody bothers to report, and looking at all the dangers that is associated with it, not just about losing petroleum product, not even about causing a challenge to national energy security, but above all, lives are lost. And indeed, what they are doing could have translated to loss of thousands of lives in that location. And everybody watches it as if it's a normal thing that is going on.
All right, the Group Managing Director of NNPC, listening to Rear Admiral Daji and the numbers that he read out, some over 300 puncture points along your pipelines, and the immediate impression that creates is a presumption that perhaps NNPC itself doesn't care so much about its own pipelines. At the time you are having 300 rupture points, what is happening? What is the PPMC doing with regard to its own pipelines?
Thank you very much. I think that's the point Rear Admiral Daji made, is that we're collaborating extensively with the security agencies to make sure that we bring this very unhealthy situation into control. As you may be aware, this pipeline traverses through swamps, creeks, and areas that you can just not access. As a matter of fact, even to security agencies, the vandals have become so sophisticated that they fight back to prevent not just NNPC from accessing the pipeline, but even officers of the security agencies, until this most recent high-profile intervention by the Chief of Defense Staff and his team, and we are very grateful for that. We are aware that there are insertions into our pipeline. We remove them on a daily basis. As you remove, they fix another one, and on a continuous basis. And everything that is happening in that locality along that right of way on the pipeline, they are not hidden. They are not unknown to us. We are not refusing to take any action, but we do replace them. We do plug back the insertions, and so on routine basis. So it's really, if you have 300 today, tomorrow you have 400, the next day you have 80 as you take them out. And it's a continuous thing. That is why we believe that what the Operation Awase is doing today now is sustainable. the actions that they have taken so far has degraded the acts of the vandals in very profound way. And ultimately, we believe that this pipeline will be safe. And we're also taking some measures ourselves. We're deploying technology to the maximum possibility that we can do. We're thinking of burying these pipes deeper. Yes, it is more expensive, but ultimately it is probably much more safer and much more economical to do that. And also to sustain the ongoing high-level collaboration between us and the security agencies, and even on the ground, on the basis that we have to support these agencies to make sure that they deliver on this. We're not unaware.
Like you were talking about technology, just like the Assistant Commandant General, Nigeria Civil Defense, Security and Civil Defense said. And technology, since you said that it's inaccessible at times, the security operatives will not be allowed by the pipeline vandals to get to the place where you need to do some repairs. Technology around the world now is it's like drones, using drones to, survey these areas and access damage to your product. Is technology in that aspect going that far to use drones maybe?
Yeah, technology complements the men on the ground, and that's what it essentially does. It enables you to do two things. First of all, technology enables you to bury the pipes deeper, which is called HDD. There are many names in the industry. There are many things you can do around what you can do with the facility itself. Then secondly, when there are infractions on the pipeline, there must be a way of knowing that this has happened. There are technological applications that will allow you to fix things on the pipeline itself, or apply drones and other UAVs to tell you what is going on. And then the third thing that you have to do is a rapid response. You may know everything about it, but if you have no capability to reach the position, it will be useless. That is why what we are doing today, the interagency collaboration with the security agencies will work. We'll fix the technology, we'll put intervention that are necessary, and then the rapid response for that will ultimately have to come into play. And indeed, because of the intervention that we are seeing today, we have almost have access to the pipelines today. The Nigerian Army is called SAPAS. There's an engineering unit part of the Nigerian Army which does work for us now, clearing the right of way, areas that our ordinary contractors can't access. Now the armed forces are helping us to access it. So ultimately, this pipeline will be secure in many fronts. I'm very confident that this will work ultimately.
Okay, but thanks a lot, GMD. Of course, a couple of months ago, that was sometime in November, NATI had its own policy dialogue with regard to stemming oil theft in Nigeria, sabotage and oil theft, and some of these issues with respect to application of technology, which also came up at that policy dialogue. There's an aspect of it, of course, I would like.
We've talked about prosecution, arrest, and let's talk about now clearance of pollutants. When these things happen, it affects the livelihood of the community itself, and the aquatic life dies, the water is polluted, the area is burnt down. What is the role, the civic responsibility of the NNPC to such communities? What do you do to alleviate their sufferings in instances like this?
Thank you very much. When incidents of spill happens, it can happen in two ways. One can be operational situation where the pipeline, because of age and excessive pressure, it can rupture without the acts of vandals. This happens both on our product lines and on our crude oil lines across our assets. Then the second component of it is when it is an act of vandals. That becomes far more difficult to manage. So whenever any of these incidents happen, the first thing we do is to restore the line so that you can limit the spill, what we call containment, so that you stop further flow of the oil, whether it is crude or petroleum product, into the environment. Then the next step we do is we move in to decontaminate the place. It's a routine practice. We do our utmost to make sure that we do clearance as soon as the incidence is, the physical incidence is overcome. So it is really routine. It's our duty, it's our responsibility that without prompting, this is the first thing we do. But sometimes when they are of massive scale, and when it is arose from acts of vandals, and that becomes much more difficult to manage, we still go ahead to clean the environment.
GMD, I earlier talked about the native policy dialogue. You had your managing directors who were present, or chief operating officers of some of your divisions who were present on that occasion. One issue that came up, and it's a common day issue now, has to do with the market for these products. I mean, Rear Admiral was here talking about so many thousands of jerry cans that were confiscated and eventually were disposed of. Of course, some of those ones would have been going outside, but within the Nigerian environment, there is clear evidence that these markets are fairly open. I know that you might argue that, okay, that would be the responsibility of DPR, and you are not DPR, who is the czar of the industry. But again, coming back to interagency cooperation, what is it that is being done to disrupt the markets for illegal refined petroleum products?
Yes, it's beyond illegally refined petroleum products. There is stealing of both crude oil, finished petroleum product, and then people who steal the crude oil and process them in very artisan manner, and of course they create other problems. It's very correct that without the market, you cannot, these businesses cannot thrive. As you may be aware, very recently the Nigerian Army arrested about 4 vessels of massive scale in the Niger Delta, particularly in our high seas. And what that means is that, the scale of the stealing is enormous. And therefore, only the intervention of the Nigerian Navy and other agencies of the military can cover that. And of course, when it comes to the product stealing, there are 2 sets of markets. One is that when they do it in the scale that Rear Admiral Daji has said, when you have 500,000 jerry cans, that means it's clearly a cross-border activity. They take it to our neighboring countries to sell. And the only way you can take out that market is to stop it from going out. Because as long as they leave these countries, as you are aware, many of our neighboring countries are very weak countries. They do not have the capabilities to import petroleum products even when they need it. And therefore, for them, this is legitimate source of supply. And the only way we can stop this is to stop the activity in the first place.
Can it be stopped?
It can be minimized.
Okay.
Because there's huge arbitrage that occurs, and there's also a necessity which we have to face. Because some of these countries around us are landlocked. They have no means of securing this petroleum product. And their governments, particularly, on some occasions, they don't even have the capability to import. And therefore, to them, except we create a legal corridor for them, that the acts of cross-border smugglers will seem like legitimate business for them. And therefore, to completely eliminate it is you have to look at the dynamics of having a relationship with them to make sure that we are able to supply petroleum product on market basis. Okay. And that may cover it. Otherwise, you can only minimize it. You can only do the best that you can, because as you are aware, we have over 4,000 kilometers of land borders that cannot be completely manned. In some locations, we know that vehicles can actually move without roads. And therefore, controlling this with all the best of efforts of our security agencies can be a very Herculean task.
So is there a move to, sort of synergize with the neighboring countries to ensure that it is legitimized, this oil that is taken from our country, so that we don't lose so much money to them?
Yes, this may be the next legitimate step that we have to take.
Okay.
Tell us something. I mean, you couldn't possibly have these ruptures of your pipelines at different points, hundreds of them, as you are fixing another one is going. What impact does this have on the integrity of your operations with regard to, one, the operation of the pipelines, and 2, the resuscitation of your depots? Because you used to have depots around the country, and there was a point that you were trying to get them back on again, but the depots cannot be sucking in if there are no products in the pipelines.
Yes, thank you very much. Very good point. Our depot structure is designed in such a way that no truck will move for more than 200 kilometers before getting to the fueling station of discharge. That's why we have 27 fuel depots across the country linked by pipelines. And that's why the problem is. We are unable to transport fuel by pipeline. Let me take them by segment. As you are aware, we are talking about the Atlas Cove all the way to Ilorin. Of course, it's a challenge. We are doing everything to fix it, take away the bundles, to have continuous operation of that pipeline. That will enable the sustenance of supply to the western part of the country, all the way to Ilorin. Then you have the pipeline that moves from Warri into Bini, all the way to Suleja and into Kaduna and further. Then you have another pipeline network that leaves from Port Harcourt into Aba, Enugu, all the way to Makodi, and then to Yola. Now, when the beginning is challenged, for instance, when we tried to pump fuel from Aba into Enugu, we lost 70% of the product on that line.
Why?
Steps. It's very simple. Insertions, and there's not a single spill. That means, just like you have seen around the Jagun area all the way into to the last point of incident that we have, it means that these insertions are done so professionally into homes, into fuel stations, that you can see these losses taking place without anybody reporting it, without seeing any spill. The same way, when we pump product from Port Harcourt to Aba, we don't lose as much as we do between Enugu and Aba, but we still lose at least 20 to 30% of the product that goes into that line. And then, of course, from Warri into Bini, we stopped operating that for over 10 years because it became impossible to operate that line. Completely impossible. I'm sure you remember all the incidents that happened along that line. That's why, at the best of effort, even when we fix the line and you start pumping product, you lose it. And therefore, they are practically demobilized the fuel depots across the country. And we are doing interventions to make sure that these pipelines are better secure, which is the work that we are doing today, to bury them deeper where we have to deploy technology when it is necessary and where it is necessary. And ultimately, we will now bring back the fuel depots into operation. Then they can see the pressure on the roads by having about 30 to 35,000 trucks operating in this country to go down. And the collateral effect is that when you have 30,000, 35,000 trucks on your road every day, that no matter what you do about road repairs, that they will come down, because some of these trucks actually carry up to 60,000 to 70,000 liters of petrol, far beyond any average that you can think of anywhere in the world. And therefore, the roads will go down with it. And of course, the cost of maintenance of the roads, collaterally also goes up. So we know that it is in overall national interest to make sure that these depots work. And that's why we need to get work done between us and security agencies, between the infrastructure agencies, to make sure that we bring back these depots. Once we do that, it minimizes the congestion in Lagos and in other parts of the coastal depot areas that we have today. Today, probably 100% of the products are supplied from the coastal depots. And that means these trucks have to move away from this quarter to the remotest part of this country. And it's a huge challenge. And it causes its own problem, accidents, safety issues, issues of, very recently now, even armed robbers now stopping trucks to take the product from them to fuel station. This is a new thing that is happening now. So
I don't understand. Armed robbers stop them, take the fuel and take it take it to fuel stations and sell it?
Absolutely. It has started last month. We have seen at least 40 cases now.
Well, that's a new dimension. I just wondering, Juma, and of course our guests and our viewers, the GMD was talking about the collateral damage. I will cite just one example, and I'm sure in your locality you can cite several other examples. Now, in the past, before the visualization of the highway from Benin City to Efurun Junction or Warri, it would take me driving, 100 kilometers or less, 1 hour. Today, you can't do that journey in 2.5 hours. And most sections of the road have collapsed. I mean, you are to Lobo, it's collapsed. You are the Ethio Bridge, is collapsed. On and on, up to Warri, up to Efurun Junction. And the reason is obvious. The vehicles that ply them are overloaded, and mostly they are tankers.
The NNPC, Melekari, it's like a chess game. You take a move, they take a move. What is the way forward?
Yes.
Briefly, as we round up.
Thank you very much. We are having a very syndicated approach to this challenge now. There are many fronts to it. First, the security agency part of it, which we are getting the optimum support and cooperation of the entire security network, spearheaded by the Chief of Defense Staff, and it's working. And then another level is that the National Assembly has stepped into this. And there's a committee now, an ad hoc committee going on to see how can they assist us to cover this menace of vandals and of that of crude oil theft. And then the other level is the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silva, has also taken another initiative to engage stakeholders, to bring everybody on the table to make sure that we're able to arrest this. And above all, Mr. President himself has personally taken this as a matter of national urgency, as an intervention that must take place so that we can, first of all, guarantee energy security, so that resources don't end up in the hands of the wrong people, and ultimately that we can contain some of the collateral damages that we see. And in that light, There are a number of interventions that are going. I will not speak about it on this platform, but I know that in the shortest frame of time, this thing will crystallize, and I believe that will come to a minimum situation.